Hello, FreeRotation Nation. Welcome to the newly named MKUltra podcast. I am Bibby the Hare.
That is not true. We are not the MKUltra podcast. Don't come after us, feds.
I am Bibby the Hare. I am joined by...
He's even got a mafia name, Bibby the Hare. I'm the Hare. And he's from New York.
I'm grown.
He's grown.
No, I'm grown. I'm joined by Topher.
Hello, hello.
Our legal advisor, Becky the Brown.
I'm not even brown, yo, but okay, that's fine. Oh, it's like a poop stain.
Poop stain.
Anyways.
Becky the Shart.
And the godmother, Angela.
Oh, God, yes.
Godmother
I
Angela.
accept this.
That sounds like the most basic name.
Bring me your children.
Well, no, it's just like we're going to the
Just like the
mafia theme.
godmother.
Right.
Yeah. But,
I just picture people accidentally bringing me their kids. I'm like, no, not that godmother.
But yeah, we're doing more MKUltra stuff today, and we're diving into some spicy stuff, aren't we, Chris?
We sure are. We are going to talk about Jack Ruby today. He is the gentleman who shot Oswald, who supposedly shot Kennedy, and we're going to... There's a lot of craziness that's involved with this one, too, but we're going to kind of delve into how he got wrangled and tied up with Jolly West. Again, steps into a lot of these situations because he's kind of the man. Like,
Yeah.
I can't wait for these pearls of wisdom.
Now, does this Jack Ruby, did he invent Ruby Tuesdays?
get out.
I love that
That
he
is
got...
with your diamond wit.
Oh, my God. That's the funny part is because Angie went with Pearls of Wisdom, but you went Ruby Tuesdays, but that was the one that was the worst of the two.
Yes. Not even close.
Not even close.
The Jolly West like Jolly Ranchers?
Or
And
Chris-
Bobby won't be here next week because I've murdered him.
I'm done. I have
Well,
to
shine
say,
bright like a diamond, Chris. And
I have some dumb
Christ.
shit I have to say before we get into serious stuff.
I ran out of words.
Okay, so here is what we know about Mr. Ruby. Ruby was a nightclub owner in Dallas. He, after Oswald shot Kennedy, they were marching Oswald through the basement of the police station. Ruby showed up, shot him. They arrested Ruby, found him guilty of murder. Ruby was dead 4 years later. He died in his prison cell of cancer. Specifically, I actually wrote it down because it was crazy. He actually died from a pulmonary embolism brought on by bronchogeneric carcinoma. Basically, he had throat and lung cancer, had an embolism, and died in his cell while awaiting his second trial after they had deemed his first one basically inadmissible. So technically, he died
Interesting.
not guilty.
So, basically what ended up happening is
Retrial.
he had to be retried, and nothing ever happened with that. Did they actually retry him?
He died before the retrial could start.
So,
And they didn't posthumously
Well, I was
do
about
it.
to say, did they posthumously do it? But I guess not.
Yep. That's probably why he died of natural
Causes?
Hillary circumstances.
Before he died, he had called in the sheriff of Dallas because he was held in the Dallas jail.
Yeah.
Said that, hey, they injected me with cancer.
Oh.
This was before they knew he had cancer or was going to die. The sheriff told him he was basically full of it. He said your doctor basically injected him with... He had migraines and headaches and stuff. So they
that sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's real. It gets closer.
Yeah.
They injected him with headache medicine, and he's like, no, it was cancer. They're going to kill me. The sheriff told him he was crazy, and then he died of cancer. I think it was about 9 months later after that conversation with the sheriff.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So, Jack Ruby is kind of he's your, like, if you had to put him in, like, The Sopranos, because he's kind of that mafia associate, not, like, one of the higher-ups, but he's kind of
He'd
like...
be the hair.
Yeah, he's just a dude. He's a guy that, he's a friend. They would consider him friendly. He does stuff for him, hangs out with them. He's not really like a made man.
He's not family, but...
Yeah, he is part of their crew.
Yeah.
They like him. They let him do stuff. They bankroll him, but he's not Italian, not part of the whole mafioso. Ruby was in the military. He was in the Air Force from 39 to 46 or 7. His actual exit date is kind of hazy. It's late 46, early 47. He did his boot camp up in Illinois, and then the rest of his career he was on... I can't get actual which bases he was on, but as best as we can get is Southern Air Bases, which that's fine, whatever. He didn't go to World War II, hung out on Southern Air Bases, which to me, like, I'm trying to figure out which ones, because Jimmy Shaver, from last week was at Lackland in Texas Air
Yeah,
Base
exactly what I'm thinking,
when they were
yeah.
doing the experiments on him for his migraines. So I'm trying to find out if he.
When you think of Southern air bases, there's not a whole lot of Southern air bases.
There's 7, I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, Georgia's got 1, Texas has 2, but again, I'm trying to track down which ones he was actually at, because if he was at Lackland, kind of the same years as Jimmy Shaver, that would go a long way to proving that Jolly West is like he knew about this, or
Yeah.
he knew he was manipulatable. Like, you can change this man. So we're dealing with a low-level friend of the mafia who runs a strip club in Dallas. His friends describe him like he's just he doesn't do anything if it doesn't involve money. He doesn't give a shit about anything but getting paid. And that's kind of it. Fine, whatever. He's just kind of not really a scumbag, but he just doesn't care about people or literally anything that's not money related.
He's kind of like a lackey, if almost. Like, he's there to get paid and just do whatever.
They end up using him basically like a middleman.
Gotcha.
His Chicago, or he has one of his really good friends is the father of the Chicago mob family. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that Chicago to Dallas is a long way, but you need people that can move drugs and guns, and that's what
And
he was
money
dealing
launder.
with. Yeah,
And somebody who's in the middle,
He
that
had a
could be in the
legit
middle
business,
that doesn't get, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's not unusual for him to get shipments.
It was
and-
legit the way that like Bada Bing was legit in The Sopranos. He had a strip club in Dallas, and it was known. I mean, the people knew he hung out with mobsters. Like,
Yeah.
cool, like whatever. Like, that's just who he was.
Yeah.
But it's hard to reconcile that kind of mentality. I'll move drugs and guns and sell prostitutes to someone that is so upset by the assassination of a president, you kill his assassin.
Yeah.
That's just not the same.
Right.
That's not the same personality.
There's a
Wasn't he
disconnect right
kind of
there,
the
yeah.
go-between with like the corrupt cops? Like he had a pretty good relationship with law
Oh,
enforcement.
he had a great relationship with law enforcement. They knew who he was and that he was connected, and he paid a lot of them, apparently.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't an unknown man.
Yeah.
They
so
knew
it's
who
not
he was.
like he would be so aghast and appalled.
Yeah, apparently, even his friends were like, he didn't care about the Kennedys at all,
No.
and even disliked Bobby Kennedy. One of them was like, yeah, he just really does not like Bobby at all.
Mm-hmm.
So for him to be that upset about JFK getting shot seems out of character, at least, because those people just don't.
Yeah, he would have been on the other side, like, hey, let's get this guy out of the way.
Yeah, well, he
dead.
supposedly, even after he was arrested, his best friend his comment was like, if he shot Oswald, he did it for money. Like, there's no way he did this out of civic pride or
Yeah.
anger.
Well, and if you're thinking about somebody who's going to assassinate the guy who assassinates the president, you're thinking maybe somebody who's sort of like a lawful good, maybe law enforcement, somebody
Or
who's
ultra-right,
ultra-right,
Christian conservative.
militaristic, somebody who is like pro Kennedy, pro government, pro that, and then you have somebody who's nowhere near the side of the government being involved in one of the biggest biggest events to happen in that time.
Yes, and still to this day, it's still the JFK assassination. Like, that is
Right.
not. It hasn't gone away. It's just like, a lot of this doesn't add up.
None of
Exactly.
this
Crazy.
makes sense.
Well, so apparently, he just didn't. He was just that guy. Like, he was a low-level mafioso figure, but not really mobster. Not.
Yeah.
He wasn't Jimmy the Hand. He was Jack Ruby. He owns the titty club down the road. Like, he can get you guns. He can get you women. He can get you
Yeah.
drugs. To the point of where he was super good friends with the gentleman's name up in. I actually wrote it down because these are Italian 40s mobsters and brother. So we have Sam Giancana and Joseph Campisi are his two buddies. They're both really high level. Apparently, Giancana was the highest level mobster in Chicago. He was just the head of the family.
Yeah.
He did it all. They liked him so much they took him. Jack Ruby. They took him to, and this is before Cuba was shut off. Really, they would take him to Cuba, to the Havana Club and the Tropicana, and they would gamble. And they were really good friends with a lot of those guys because they were using the Cuban mob to move drugs and guns back and forth. So you have Chicago, Dallas, Cuba. This weird
The weird trifecta.
triangle
That's
of
so
The
funny.
Bermuda Triangle.
basically mobsters. So we have a mob connected Jack Ruby, we have a dead Oswald, we have a dead Kennedy. Nothing crazy. They arrest Jack Ruby as he walks into that precinct, shoots Oswald, gets tackled. while they're tackling him and arresting him, there's a disconnect. He doesn't understand why they're attacking him or why they're tackling him. He asks, like, hey, what are y'all doing to me? I'm Jack Ruby. Get your hands off of me. He doesn't realize he shot Oswald until later. It's just a blank spot in his mind. At trial, they argue that he went temporarily insane, and the reason that he was because he was such a good patriot, and he wanted to save Jackie Kennedy the trouble of having to come back to Dallas for a trial. That's the excuse they gave why he killed Oswald. It makes literally zero sense, but we're still dealing with early 60s America.
Yeah.
It's still the government. It's still okay.
Also, women's role at that time.
Yeah.
Protect the little wife. She can't handle it.
Yeah, it's just...
And Jackie was beloved. Like,
yeah,
she
everybody
still
loved
is.
her. Yeah, it's Jackie Kennedy. She is the epitome of what... When you think, like, American First Lady, that's the picture most people have. Her in, like, that pink with the top. It's just...
Yeah.
That's just the picture in most of the world's mind of what you want your First Lady to look like. You want her to be tall and poised and well-spoken and loved. She was like Lady Di in Britain.
Yeah.
Like, people loved her. And it was just her... The way she carried herself was really regal. And that's not to say anything that she was a good person or a bad person. It's just her public appearance. That's what it was. And the same thing with Kennedy. People loved him regardless of, who he was banging or how many drugs or whatever. None of that mattered. People loved him because he was this 43-year-old, good-looking American ex-military president, strong for the
family.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
They failed to mention his dad was a bootlegger and made all of his money when doing Prohibition. But who cares? Like, it's whatever. This is Jack.
And he was plowing Maryland constantly. Good for him.
Apparently a lot of broads. Apparently
Good for him.
JFK was...
He was a man-ho.
I mean, yeah, it is what it is, but it didn't matter because his public appearance was strong for the people. I'm a good man, the end. Catholic, which was a big thing back then, and we don't think about it now, but I don't think there had ever been a Catholic president before him.
No.
He was the
yeah.
first.
There was huge push towards anti-Catholicism in America. They really disliked Catholics and the Pope, and that goes all the way back to the Irish. They really disliked Catholics. I wasn't alive back then. I couldn't begin to tell you what the mindset of people was. I don't get it, but that's just me. Like, whatever. It's just what it was. So, Ruby shoots Oswald, gets arrested, goes to jail. The next day, Jolly West inserts himself as his psychiatrist to make sure that he is fit to stand trial. Jolly West goes into the room with Jack Ruby. 3 hours later, Ruby is crying under a table, screaming that the Nazis are lighting Jewish babies on fire. Can't you hear the babies burning? 3 hours. That's how long it took him to break Ruby down, who had never had any of... Again, he didn't serve in war. He was in war. He served. He never went overseas in World War II. This isn't like he's having PTSD flashbacks. This is not a thing.
And I feel like this is like, because it took Jolly West 3 sessions to break the other guy. He did this one in 3. He's got his method down pat now.
This is also 10 years later.
Yeah, he's got his method.
Shaver was 54. This is 63. I mean, you're dealing with legit 9 years later.
Yeah, he's got it down pat now.
You don't know how many other subjects there have been. Yep. There are stories that there was a third with Sidney Gottlieb and Jolly West. There was supposedly a British counterpart named Oswald that was like their buddy, and he was doing this to MI5 and the British. I think it was the OSS in Britain.
Yeah.
Supposedly they had him killed because he finally had enough of it and said we can't torture people like this, because he had served in World War II and had seen what the Nazis were doing.
And on top of it, you talked about it last time. Gottlieb was saying, let's stop doing it on people we work with, the military. We don't want to do it to our people. Who else could we do it to? University students, low-level mobsters make a lot of sense.
Gottlieb didn't care.
Yeah, he was evil.
He cared. Even the CIA thought he was evil, and they still let him do what he did whatever the hell he wanted.
Right.
He didn't care if it was done to CIA, and that's the mindset I go into this. Like, these people are completely they're unrestricted.
Right.
If they feel that a sitting president is against their better judgment,
bye.
Yeah.
They're probably... I don't think they have any qualms about having him assassinated. I don't think that's ever an issue for them. And for Jolly West to be involved in this at all makes me question how high up it goes. So, I don't know. I don't know if this was MKUltra that killed him or a joint, because there were a lot of other things that Kennedy was doing. You can look up Operation Northwoods, that the higher ups in the military really didn't like, because they were, again, we wanted Cuba. America wanted Cuba to be an American territory. Operation Northwoods the plan was we send a civilian airliner towards Cuba, we shoot it down, we kill everybody on board, we blame Cuba, we go to war with Cuba. This was the Pentagon. This was their plan. It got to Kennedy, and Kennedy's like, yeah, we're not doing that at all. He shot it down. 2 months later, he was murdered.
Yeah. Well, we did something similar with Lusitania back in the day, too.
Yeah.
We purposely sent it to Nazi-infested waters. Not Nazi German-infested waters. It wasn't...
And this
that
was
World
also
War I.
after Kennedy had already prevented a crisis with Cuba.
Yeah, the Bay of
So
Pigs.
twice
Yeah.
now he's foiled them.
Yeah, and they just don't. I don't know if it is a combination of. And again, the CIA is not the military, but if you think they don't work with the military, you are crazier than I am. And believe me,
Well,
I am
Because this
crazy.
is what they do.
Well,
They're overseas.
Well, it's interwoven with each other. If you
They
think
are.
about it, like what does the CIA do? It looks at the intelligence that's been provided by the military.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people forget the CIA back in World War II was called the OSS.
Yeah.
Like, this is what they did.
Yeah.
And it's weird because we have all these acronyms for the CIA, the FBI, the OSS, the DIA, but I don't think these agencies, whereas the lower level people probably never run into each other, I assume the higher levels who have information probably know each other fairly well, and they share a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So, we have Ruby kills Oswald. No problem. Jolly West comes in. Ruby is apparently crazy. Even at his trial, Jolly West says, hey, we can't give him the death penalty. He was crazy. And, I mean, screaming about Nazi babies being burned.
Because he probably learned his lesson from Shaver. You have to make them insane so they can get that insanity plea
Yes.
and not the death penalty. Because remember, he tried that with Shaver.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that was part of it. Like, Shaver was flat out not crazy the whole time. He was completely lucid except for when the child was murdered. Mm-hmm. Everything else is completely either a daze or lucidity,
Yeah.
and that's it.
I remember in the trial, Jolly West was like, don't kill him. Don't kill him.
Yeah.
So same thing. Don't kill him.
I wonder if he was trying to not protect, but save an asset and learn from it.
Oh, yeah.
More so than he was anti-killing him. I don't think he cared about life or death one way or
he
the other.
wanted the information.
Yeah,
The
that's
long-term effects.
That's how I think he operated. So, Jack Ruby, we're going to get into him a little bit. So, in 56, there was an FBI informant. Her name was Eileen Curry. She moved to Dallas from somewhere in Illinois. I don't know if it was Chicago. I can't find exactly where she moved to Dallas from. But she moved with her. She had a boyfriend at the time. His name was James Breen. He had a narcotics possession and distribution charge. He jumped bond. They moved to Dallas. FBI knew this. They knew where they were at because she was an informant the whole time. Mm-hmm. She said that when they got to Dallas, there was basically a cartel set up between Dallas, Mexico, and the East. And that Mr. Breen, her boyfriend at the time, was allowed to work in it with permission from Jack Ruby. So what we have is 1956. Jack Ruby is, if not in the mob, at least working for them because they're giving him permission to say who can work and who cannot work to move drugs.
Which is pretty a trusted position.
It is. It's one of those things where if he screws up, they're going to kill him. And when you deal with a mob, you have to know that. So they trust him to make the right decisions at this point. But the part that concerns me isn't that he's connected with the mob. We already know that. It's that the FBI knew this in 56. And this is, 7 years before the Kennedy assassination, before Oswald gets killed. So they know he's associated. They have their informant telling them, hey, which means they've been watching. They don't just take that and ignore it. That's not their job.
And he was on their what this basically puts on is that he's on their radar.
They know who he is and what he's doing.
And this almost it's not even like a fly by night. Okay, let's go deal with this guy. It's this is a long-term observation of this dude.
Well, I think it's more the same thing they were doing with Whitey Bulger and, to a lesser degree, Charles Manson. It's better to have assets in the field that you know what they're doing then dude's locked up in jail. Because then you have to discover more assets. I
Right.
think that was their mindset at this point was, okay, we don't care that he's selling drugs and guns. He's manipulatable. If we need him, we have him dead to rights. And
he's easy to follow, and we can go to the people giving it
Yeah.
to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he doesn't even know.
Well, that and if we need him for something, he has to do it.
Yeah.
Like, there is no getting out of this. Here's all the evidence we have. We're going to need you to do us a favor, or you're going to go to jail in a dark room for the rest of your life.
Or we'll let the mob know that what we know about you, and they'll kill you.
Yeah, I mean, that's
they'll take care of it.
I think
that's scarier.
I don't know if and this is my thing. I don't think the CIA and the FBI and the mob are as separated as people think.
I don't think so either.
When you look at Whitey Bulger, he operated in Boston in the 60s. Said he was brutal. Basically owned all of Boston, killed whoever got in his way, made a bunch of money. He technically won the lottery 3 times in Boston, which is really confusing to people. But basically what he would do is people would win and bring him their ticket. And then he would take care of them forever. He would collect the money so that he would show that he won money versus having to show IRS papers. Yeah. Yeah, he won the lottery 3 times in Boston.
That's pretty smart.
I mean, yeah.
Well, it's just playing the system really well.
Yeah.
But you have to remember before he said he was in the MKUltra project, before he was tested on in Atlanta, he was not a violent man. They let him go. And at this point, he is, if not an asset, he at least trusts you. You've dealt with him. You know him. You have information on him. And he was allowed to run the streets of Boston and do basically whatever he wanted until he left Boston. He was arrested a few years ago in Cali, but they let him murder and run drugs and run numbers and racketeering and bookies. He could do whatever he wanted.
Right.
And even then, the lesser criminals who weren't associated with his faction 100% were like, yeah, he's an informant for the FBI. They 100% thought that's why he was
Yeah.
never touched. That's why the cops couldn't touch him. They couldn't do anything.
Well, and you kind of got to wonder about people like Jack Ruby, too. Like, people who are kind of in that pulse of it that seem like they go for a long time and then suddenly they're caught. There has to be something that triggers it.
Well, I think with him, he was just corruptible, and they knew
Yeah.
it, and he was already corrupted. And
Yeah.
cool, if they had been doing these whatever migraine experiments with him in whatever airbase he was on, if they kept doing this at other places, if it wasn't just Jolly West at Lackland, if they had other constituents at other bases, it's not like they're not going to keep trying. Like, it's not how the military works.
Well, that also brings up an interesting point because you look at Jim Shaver. He is just what the straight and narrow looks like. He's an airman who works at Lackland, he's part of the military. He's pro-government. He's all of this, that he's the American figure of what you want to see. Then you have somebody who's so corrupted like Jack Ruby, who's kind of the opposite of that. So now you're looking at 2 very different, I hate to say specimens and experiments, but to see how they
reacted. That's what an
reacted.
experiment looks like.
Yeah.
I've got my controlled. And let's take 2 different things and see if we can get them in the same place.
So that is really an interesting perspective on that, just because at the
That's
same
how
time,
you know you're successful. Can you do it to anything?
Like,
and
can
anyone?
you do? Yeah, is
do it to
the
dogs.
well, is the human mind so malleable, regardless of what your morals and principles are?
Does
if
it
we
not matter?
do this, does it not matter?
Well, I mean, I look at it like cloning. You start off with a single cell organism and you work your way up the food chain. You go to multi-celled organisms, worms. Can you clone a worm? Cool. Can we clone a lizard? Cool. Can we clone a goat?
Yeah.
Cool. Can we clone people? And I think that's kind of what they're doing, is they're just working their way up. Yeah, it's easy to corrupt people who are not even a little bit corrupt.
Well, and there's
Can we corrupt people that are already corrupted? Can we
Yeah.
corrupt them the way we want them to be?
Right.
in the psychology they've based all of their experiments in MKUltra is, I was telling Becky, it's called personology, and it's that our personality is the sum of all of our experiences, good or bad. So if you take somebody and this is the sum of their experiences right here, then that just becomes part of you.
With Jack Ruby, we have someone who is associated with a mob that the FBI knows is associated with a mob. I mean, there's no doubt. They have the records of it.
Yeah.
That is associated with Cuba. He goes back and forth to Cuba a lot. They keep flying over there to gamble and whatever. He liked gambling. That was his thing. He liked gambling and prostitutes. He was known in Dallas as a man that when there are no written records of who they were, but when important people would come to town, he would get them hookers. And that's just what he did. Like, he was that guy.
He seems
He
like a
was that
reasonable
guy.
guy. I mean, he seems like a wholesome dude to me.
He was like your like assistant in things. Like he not
Like that guy everybody likes.
Yeah.
But you know not to cross him because he's got mob connections.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Well, you know, Jack can get you what you need.
Mm-hmm.
Don't fuck up.
You want some whiskey? Jack.
Yeah.
Titties? Jack.
Cocaine.
cocaine. Jack.
Jack. You need a hit? A connection to the mob?
Yeah. I don't think he ran guns, but I don't think he was involved with any of the, I don't think he was smart enough to handle any of the higher up assassination stuff.
He was probably that guy that knew a guy. Like, hey, you need to talk to a
Yes.
guy. Here's this guy.
Yeah,
Go talk to
he
this
was that
guy.
guy.
Yeah.
Jimmy
you
the
put me in
Hammer's going to
touch?
give you a visit.
Yeah.
I'll put you in touch with somebody.
Yeah. Just
Forget about it. I got you.
Yeah. Just don't mention me, but you'll get somebody. Just keep a lookout.
So, during the Kennedy assassination, November 21st, 1963, Dallas, Texas, supposedly Oswald takes a shot, shoots 3 rounds in, I think, less than 2 seconds, which, whereas it is possible with the gun he was using, it is highly unlikely, especially since Oswald was a shit shot. All his records from the military say he couldn't shoot for dick.
And I mean, this is like recorded record about
he
this
just
guy.
was not a good shot.
Like, he was not one of those people who could just saw off a bunch of shots at once, which is why
Not
there's
only
always that.
But your expert marksman had trouble
Yeah, well,
doing these
Yeah,
shots.
or recreating it in the first
Yeah.
place.
Again, I'm not saying it's not possible. It is.
It's
But
just
you're-
improbable.
Yeah, you're dealing with
Highly.
a person who could not shoot for shit, hitting a moving target. Yes, it was moving at him, technically, at the book depository, if that's where he shot him from. However, he shot 3 rounds so fast and so accurate. It's just tough. Coming from a military family where my dad was a sniper, flat out, my whole life, he's like, there's no way he makes that shot. And this is a man who trained snipers. My dad there was no question in his mind. He didn't do it. He didn't know who did it. But there was no way Oswald made those shots.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's just not a thing.
Or at least if he was involved, it wasn't him that was doing.
I think he was involved, and I think he fired some rounds off.
Yeah, but I don't think maybe he thought he was the one that shot him, but I mean, okay, we could go on for days about the conspiracy theories regarding JFK, though.
Yeah, of course.
Especially
Well,
the
this is
people
part of
who-
it, though.
Yeah.
Especially the people who tried to get the parade route to change.
Yeah.
Like, don't send him down the street. No, we're sending him down that street at this time.
Yeah.
They also called JFK and told him to put the bubble on his car. Because
Yeah.
they had a bulletproof bubble, and he was like,
Yeah,
nah.
they had the Pope Mobile bubble.
Yeah.
And he was just like, nah.
Yeah, people always think that the reason why we have the Pope Mobile bubble and bubbles now is because of JFK. That existed back
Before
then.
then, yeah.
Yeah, it had always been around. He chose not to use it.
They actually told him to use it in
Exactly.
Dallas, and he was like, nah.
Well, a lot of people think Jackie was involved because she's the one who was like, don't do it.
Yeah.
The people need to see you. Jackie? What?
Yeah,
But we don't know if that was really her.
Yeah, and even if it was, I doubt her intention was to have him. Her reaction was not,
Oh my God.
somebody who knew.
yeah,
Yeah.
you didn't know this was coming. Hers was
And-
horror
and,
like,
and
his
get to him
brain
and then
literally-
hide.
Yeah, his brain literally came out of her head,
Yeah.
his head, and she was just like,
Yeah, it was the pink mist.
Yeah.
it was just disgusting.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that I haven't seen any kind of reputable evidence that she was involved at all.
No.
I just can't imagine.
And I kind of wonder if it wasn't that her intention wasn't, hey,
I think it was
be there for the people.
Yes.
And that was something she
the
realized
same
that
thing
she
with
made
Princess
a terrible.
Di.
Yeah.
She would
Yeah.
walk through the crowds, and she was with the people. She would
Right.
go to the homeless shelters because he's a man of the people.
And theoretically, there could have been somebody she trusted who maybe didn't have pure intentions of it, saying,
Absolutely.
you know what, no, he needs to be there for the people. And her thought process is, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Well, and to add a crazy spin, this is a Mandela effect. The car itself is a Mandela effect. Where she was sitting, were 2 people in the car behind them. It's a Mandela effect. So maybe history's being rewritten.
Sure. I'm going
So on
off what
top
we
of
got.
this, we've got history being rewritten. This is some
So
bullshit.
we have Oswald shooting. We have the president dead. We have Oswald dead. We have Ruby in jail. Mm-hmm. Batshit insane.
Saying he doesn't remember it.
Yeah, pretty much. So before he shoots Oswald, which is a whole thing in and of itself, they have a press conference at, I think it's at the police department. Sure. And it's the DA of Dallas. His name is Henry Wade. He comes in to brief the press, the reporters, at the police office, and he says that Lee Harvey is a member of the Anti-Castro Free Cuba Committee. And they've arrested him, and this is what he was. Jack Ruby, weirdly enough, is at this press conference pretending to be a reporter, and corrects Wade and says, no, he's a member of the Fair Play for Cuban Committee. Like, it's just a little thing, but he's on camera correcting the DA. They don't know why
Pretending to be a reporter?
Uh-huh.
So, okay.
And keep in mind, he's very well known.
And again, this
Right.
is the day after, the day of Oswald's arrest.
Right.
So what that says to me, and this is how I look at it, A1, supposedly Ruby and Oswald do not know each other. They are strangers.
Right.
Why would you pretend to be a reporter?
That's number one.
Why?
How would you even know?
Yeah, well, A1, why
And
pretend
how
to be a
did they
reporter?
not recognize him?
Why would you know about whatever committee for Cuban freedom that Lee Harvey supposedly involved with? And the cops knew who Ruby was, so they had to have let him in pretending to be a reporter. This is at the sheriff's office. Like, these people know him.
Yeah, it's not like he's wearing like those like glasses with a big nose and a mustache. He's like, "Hey guys, I'm here."
Groucho
Yeah.
Marx.
Yeah.
He's not. I mean,
He's got like
I'm
ruby studded.
I'm
shirt.
Ruby Jack. I'm a reporter.
it's not even like
He's like in drag. I'm Ruby Jack.
Yeah.
a Clark Kent level of disguise.
Oh yeah.
Where
He
it's,
puts some glasses on and he's good to go.
clearly you're still Superman. You're just not wearing your underwear outside
Yeah.
your clothes. Like, what are you doing, bro? No, he just shows up, pretends to be a reporter because the DA probably does not know Jack Ruby.
Right.
The rest of the country's press probably does not know Jack Ruby. The Dallas Sheriff's Office does, and
They
they
know
just
him.
let him do his thing.
Go on
So,
in, Jack.
yeah, pretty much.
And considering that we are literally in the midst of one of the like we've said, one of the biggest events in American history, you don't think the government is also there hanging out, like watching all of this go on?
I can't, and I've been trying to figure this out, why they would insert him, if that was their plan, into the press conference. I don't understand that part of it. And I don't understand why he spoke up to correct.
Like, why would he correct it in the first place?
Yes. Like, just keep your mouth shut. But he didn't. He literally on camera spoke up to correct the DA.
There's a reason. There's a reason
I
he
know.
was there and said
And I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm
and I
wondering.
can't.
Okay,
because
this
they
is-
wanted you to know.
well,
there.
maybe not that. Oh, here, listen, hear me out.
Okay. Oh,
Okay.
wait. Does Bobby need a tinfoil hat for his hair?
It's just a little tiny hat that sits on the top of his head.
It's actually a little tinfoil hairnet.
What if this was like their way of seeing if he had been malleable at that point?
Oh, to convince him he was a reporter.
Yes.
I think he was already malleable.
Right.
We're
But
gonna
this
get
is
to
like,
that.
well, like maybe this is like his like
his
trigger.
test run.
Yeah, his test run.
Which is a good idea. I'm going a little bit out of order on purpose.
Okay.
This is after they've already arrested Oswald.
Okay.
So we're gonna get to why I don't think that's the case.
Okay.
So the day before, when Kennedy was shot, Ruby says he was at the Dallas Star, I think is the name of their newspaper, printing up ads for his Gentleman's Club. That's where he said he was. He was like, cool, yeah, I was at the Star. We were making advertisements so people would come to the Titty Bar during the assassination. I heard about it later.
Yeah.
The problem with that, and here's what I'm going to read, which is fun. He was actually seen driving on Elm Street, which is right where Kennedy was shot. In a pickup truck, they saw a man get out and head for the grassy knoll who had a rifle in his hand. There is a picture of Jack Ruby standing in front of the Texas Book Depository after the last gunshot was fired.
That's right.
So
Because they had gotten the cameras from
Yeah.
everybody there to compile some footage.
So there's visual evidence of him on site, right below Oswald, after the last shot was fired.
This is like some M. Night Shyamalan level twists and turns in this.
Yeah, it is.
Except it makes less sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is no. Again, it's hard to think about because I try to put all this linear, and it's really difficult because we're dealing with. This is all big brain, crazy, but they're using whoever they have.
Right.
And I think they're using people that are expendable but are controllable. Mm-hmm. Those are the two things they're looking for. And we have a large population, so they probably have a lot of that. I mean, there are a lot of us that don't need to be here.
True.
I mean...
Well, and it just sounds like he's a sleeper agent at this point. It's like, time to activate you,
But
time
like
for us
literally
to
a
do it.
Manchurian candidate
Yeah.
type sleeper.
I don't know if... And the way I look at Ruby is... I don't know if they used him as basically the courier for the assassins. If they let him go drop off, there may not have been... And we look at, Lee Harvey shot him, whatever, or you get this, Jack Ruby dropped off a shooter. There may have been 4 more Jack Rubies that we've never heard of, that we'll never see, because they couldn't all shoot Oswald. They may have all been there that night Oswald got killed, and no one else had to do anything because
Oh, that's
Ruby
true.
did it.
Like whoever got there first was the one that did it.
Yeah, these
Or
aren't.
had the opportunity. First.
The opportunity. Whoever got the opportunity was number one.
I don't think these MKUltra guys are guys that make a lot of public mistakes.
It's like the Men in Black almost. It's like you see them pictured and you know they exist, but then you're like, if they're not involved, they're not there.
Well, that, and you see what we see is one guy. It may have been 6 guys.
Yeah.
That we'll never know their names. We'll never hear about them.
Right.
But they were there.
Right. And it's just so it's so crazy to think that what he did was he walked into probably a very full police precinct and shoot a man who had just allegedly assassinated the president.
So it gets crazier than that. He walks in the basement of a precinct
Yeah.
where the guards have been called off from the doors he walked through. He's allowed to walk up to Lee Harvey and then shoot him, and then they tackle him. No,
All of which is caught.
yeah,
Like-
they know it all.
You
Yeah.
can't deny it. Here it is on film and in like
Print and all
perfect
that. Yeah.
photograph of you shooting him,
Ooh, ooh, ooh,
which is weird in and of
ooh.
itself
It,
too.
it's really he's protected. Everything he does is protected until he kills Oswald. They literally don't arrest him. He doesn't get in any trouble for the guns, the drugs, the hookers, the titty bar, the going to Cuba, the knowing mafiosos. None of that gets him in trouble. Dropping off apparently guys with rifles on a grassy knoll when the president's coming down doesn't draw any attention. Hanging out the bottom of the book depository where Oswald shot doesn't draw any attention. The only time he gets in trouble is when it's public, when it's on camera. Mm-hmm. He's busted. He gets put in a cell. He dies in that cell. So this is where we're at with Jack Ruby. He kills Oswald after supposedly having nothing to do with the president or not liking him, kills him for the president, drops off a guy out of the back of his pickup truck on the grassy knoll, is caught on camera hanging out at the book depository. And I don't mean like close to when Oswald got fired. It was the last shot.
Yeah.
It was right then. Somebody swung their camera around, took a picture, and Jack Ruby's just standing there. So
Another interesting thing is they've been unable to track down the woman who turned that camera in.
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Set up.
Yeah.
The babushka lady.
And
Yeah.
if
She's
people
like the
don't
Baba
really-
Yaga.
And people don't really care to like pursue Jack Ruby because I mean he's a hero.
dead.
He shot Oswald.
Well, it's the public perception. And
Exactly.
It's if it looks good, it is good. But is it? Is it really good that a MKUltra psychiatrist, psychologist, doctor, whatever you want to call him, made a man go insane in 3 hours who was up until then, whereas maybe not the nicest guy in the world, not crazy.
Yeah.
No problems of mental illness, just kind of a dick apparently. Like didn't care about you or me, but wanted money. Mm-hmm. Is that okay? Is it okay that exists? And
Well-
it existed in 1963.
And is it okay? Like the thing about it for me is it's like it goes to show how we perceive history based on what we are told.
Yeah.
Like if you told me that nothing about the history of this guy other than the fact that
He shot Oswald.
he shot Oswald because he killed the president, most people are going to think this guy's an American hero. But then when you start to dig down and look at what's happened, he was a
And you're like he's an American patsy.
yeah, he isn't exactly
Yeah.
that. Like, and to the point that some guy who has been involved in this alleged program for so long, who, every time shows up in these like big pointed events of history and breaks the guy, like who? That to me is the craziest part of all of it.
Well, and you have to remember, Jolly West isn't working in Dallas. He's still at the University of
Right.
Oklahoma at this point, supposedly working at the school, and just involves himself.
He just it's like suddenly they're like, hey, we got this guy. We need you to talk to him. Like,
Are there
is
no
like-
psychiatrists in Dallas?
Like, think about
he's like an ambulance chaser that they let
yeah.
do it.
Well, think about it. It's like in one circumstance, we have this guy who is a military guy who kills a 4-year-old, Jolly West. Assassination of JFK and the guy who kills the guy who assassinated him, Jolly West. Where is the correlation?
Yeah, there is none other than these guys are supposedly crazy afterwards.
And that it's MK Ultra.
Yeah, that's the connection.
Yeah. Ooh, gosh. Ooh, ooh.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're dealing with. I don't think he's an ambulance chaser. I think he's the hospital. I think they're driving these
Yeah.
people to him. Like they're making them do whatever they do before they get there. But once they get there, Cool. Now you get to deal with Jolly West, who is
Yeah.
the real monster.
Yeah.
But like he just shows up and like, hey, I
Yeah,
heard
and I
you
don't-
needed a psychologist.
I think maybe with Jack Ruby, they told him maybe they did it through his mob buddies.
Yeah.
You're gonna go drop off these couple guys. You're gonna stand right here. The end. No one's gonna ask you any questions. That's what's gonna happen until there are pictures. After that, he goes back to whatever club he's at or whoever, and maybe that's where they go ahead and pentothal him or LSD him up.
Hey, you
or-
know Jolly West is there waiting.
Oh yeah.
You just know.
You don't involve yourself with that just
Yeah.
out of the blue.
Yeah.
But maybe that's where they were like, okay, congratulations, now you get to go kill Oswald. Whether you want to or not.
Right.
That's going to happen. And then you're going to go to jail. And that's where this ends.
And we have all this proof that you were
the one that shot him.
sole
Yeah.
participant of it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a good way to shut up Oswald, because he's dead.
Yeah.
And it's a good way to shut up, and even, so the Warren Commission is basically the commission that investigated the assassination of JFK. Their stated goal, which kind of sucks, was to prove that there was no conspiracy to kill JFK. That was their goal going
Yeah.
in. They said they proved that. I'm like, well,
No, you didn't.
cool. Awesome. Magic bullet. Good,
Right.
good job.
Wave it away.
Ruby, while he's in jail, after they've declared there has to be a retrial, Ruby calls the Warren Commission or gets in touch with them and says, hey, I need to talk to you guys. I know what happened. I can tell you everything. They come out there, talk to him. He's like, I can't tell you anything in the Dallas prison. I need you to get me to Washington and hide me, and I will tell you everything that happened. And this is Gerald Ford, and these guys are on the Warren Commission. They're
Yeah.
like, we're not a police unit. We can't just move you. And then a year later...
Meanwhile, yes, they could.
Yeah, they could have done it at... These are high politicians. All they have to do is call the governor
Secret
of
Service.
Texas and say, hey, he's coming with us.
Or just call the Secret Service.
Yeah, go get him.
Yeah, it's not hard extraditing people for the purposes of anything.
Especially since the Secret Service, don't they operate outside?
They outside regular police laws,
Yeah.
yeah. They kind of have like Port Authority law where
Yeah.
wherever they're at, they have
They have
jurisdiction.
jurisdiction, yeah.
So he tells them, I can tell you everything. This was not my idea. And then he dies in prison without being able to tell anybody or leave.
Of quote unquote
Cancer.
cancer.
After he tells the sheriff that they've injected me with cancer. And then he dies of cancer. So the things that worry me are, A1, do they have a cancer injection? Because Jesus Christ.
Oh, that's even scarier.
And A2, 3 hours is what it took Jolly West to break him down completely to where, I mean,
And that is
crazy.
what their stated objective was.
Yeah.
Advanced
He did
interrogation technique.
Exactly what he wanted to do
Yeah.
in 3 hours. How
I
far has that
wonder
progressed?
What did he do? Like, what was that?
Again, I really think if sodium pentothal takes away your ability to create new memories or false memories,
And then they just put stuff.
yeah, then that's real. If your brain is telling you this can't be fake because I can't make fake things, then all of that is real. It's like, did you ever see the movie The Invention of Lying?
Yeah.
That movie's great. Everybody in the world, no one can lie.
Oh.
Except for Ricky Gervais. He figures out how to
Oh,
lie.
Jesus. Okay.
He tells a lie. But he's the only person that can. So everything he says,
They believe.
100%. There is no doubting because there is no lying. I think your brain may
That
operate
makes you godlike.
really quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies that no one really saw.
I'm going to have to see it.
But if your brain operates that way, if your brain basically tells you, I can't make anything up. So all of this has to be fact.
Right.
If Jolly West is like, yep, those are Nazi burning babies, you might not be able to see them, but if you believe it, it doesn't matter if you can see them.
I mean, it's almost like if you say, like, if I walk outside and you say the sky is purple, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, but it's blue. And you're like, no, it's purple, but it's blue. It's like everything you're in your brain telling you that this exists.
Yeah.
And even regardless of what people are telling you, like, hey, how did that even happen? It's because it exists the way it is.
But imagine we go outside and you're blind and I tell you the sky's blue.
Well, it's blue.
To you, it's blue.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you can see it or not.
Right.
It is blue.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what they're doing to these guys. They're basically blinding them and telling them things, and I don't know, so it's got to be right.
Yeah.
And
That's
they're
a good
believing it.
analogy, Chris. Yeah.
And well, it's scary because then you lose that ability to think for yourself, like, okay, well, I can't see that the sky is blue and they're telling me it's blue, but is it possible that it's not blue? You know?
Like Jimmy
It just
Shaver,
is.
I can't imagine I did this, but I know I did.
Absolutely.
But I just
Right.
can't believe I did it, but
Well,
I did it.
He didn't have to see it.
Right.
He just, his mind tells him he did it. He's like, fuck, I guess I
Oh,
did.
no, you did it. You did it.
And that's kind of the overacting.
It's like hearing your blackout drunk stories.
Yeah.
You don't know you did it, but
But you
everybody's
believe
like, you did it, so
Yeah.
you believe you did it because everybody's saying you did.
Yeah.
I guess I did that.
But I wonder like how far has that advanced?
Yeah.
If it took West 3 hours in 1963, what can they do in 2020? How fast can they basically wipe your memory and implant whatever they want you
Yeah.
to believe in there? Is it 10 minutes? Is it an hour? Because either one of those is terrifying. 3
Is
hours.
it the Men in Black flashlight?
Yeah, 3 hours is terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But everything technologically has advanced so far now that I really do wonder, like, can they do this in like 2 seconds?
Yeah.
Can they tell me, hey, the sky's green? And I'm like, yep, that's green. Whether,
That's it.
even if I'm seeing it blue.
And by God, I will die to confirm my belief
Yeah.
that sky is green.
Yeah. I wonder if that's where they're at now. But I mean, you're looking at Jimmy Shaver and Jack Ruby and Sirhan and Charles Manson, and these people all lose their minds and do horrible, horrible things that they've never done before.
Yeah.
And they 100% believe in doing them. Like, there is no doubt in their mind. There was not a minute, even on the videos, Jack Ruby did not hesitate.
Nope.
Yeah.
He
shot
walked in
right
and
the
just
gut.
shot him.
Right in the
Yeah.
gut.
Boom, done.
32, I think it was a 32 Colt Cobra to the gut, and then had no idea that he had done
Whereas
it.
a normal person, there's hesitation.
Yeah.
That's how they determine sociopathy.
Well, that, and you don't, if you're not,
Sociopathy. There we go.
sociopathy. If you're not already crazy and just there is no empathy within you to not shoot another human being,
Yeah.
you just don't do that. You don't
No.
walk up and shoot a stranger
Well,
to keep his wife out of Texas.
Well,
like,
and
what?
And to think about the fact that Jack Ruby wasn't really involved in like hitman and stuff.
No.
Anything to that extent. He was drugs, titties, and
Yeah.
guns.
He was,
And cigars.
And yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
I think he was more like the fun guy.
Yeah.
Like, you want to go have a good time?
the guy you know.
Jack Ruby's club
Yeah,
is a
yeah,
ball.
yeah.
He can get you whatever you want.
Yeah, yeah, he's
You want to
the
do some
guy.
real nefarious shit, you come talk to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He,
But-
like I said, the guy who knows a guy.
Yeah. I don't think they had him involved in the murder aspects, or even, he probably didn't know any of the inner workings because he didn't need to.
No.
He knew where the drugs were. He knew where the girls were.
And,
Cool.
and when he wanted to talk to the Warren Commission, he knew who told him to be here, there, and where.
Absolutely.
And hey, when I got back and lost my mind, there were these people there.
So the Warren Commission concluded that Jack Ruby, on their initial findings, didn't really have any. He knew people in the mob, but he had no real connections to them. They were just kind of fleeting connections.
Yeah.
Well,
Keep in mind, his best friend was the Chicago Mafia boss.
Yeah.
well, that and Campisi, once he was Joseph Campisi, the guy from Chicago, actually went to visit Oswald while he was in jail. Spent 10 minutes in there with him. You don't do that for people you kind of know,
No.
No, he put
Especially-
himself at risk
Yeah.
going there.
especially if you're a mob boss.
Yeah.
You don't walk in to talk to somebody that's been arrested for murder on camera. You distance yourself.
Yeah.
Now, I've never met that guy.
Yeah.
But he went and spoke to him
I
at
barely knew
prison.
him.
Yeah. And it's just like, either everybody's not paying attention, and at this point, it's still, we're still in the mid-'60s America. We haven't quite hit,
The distrust.
well, it's kind of started, and there are veins of it. It's kind of started in San Francisco, but this is still Texas.
Yeah.
Like, this is...
Red.
Yeah, solid American citizens, salt of the earth,
And you
fuck commies, America.
Yep.
and you really don't see the full like effect of it until after Charles Manson and the Vietnam Wars when
Well-
you start to kind of see the changes.
Well, the summer of '69 was the summer of love, and that is the end. Basically, they say the end of the hippie movement.
Yep.
That is where it stops and that was one of the stated goals of not MKUltra, but one of the side projects for COINTELPRO and Project Chaos was to sow discontent in Americans' minds about the hippies.
Yeah.
And the way to do that is show hippies as murderers,
Yep.
and it ends that movement on the spot.
And it did.
Yeah, 100%. It worked. It did exact.
These transient people will come into your town, rape and kill.
Yep. They bring drugs and murder everywhere they go.
Yep. Oh man.
I mean, we still kind of have that. Like the Rob Zombie movies.
Sure.
A lot of them they look like hippies. They, don't go to their house.
Yeah, but they're more redneck,
Yeah.
nutso, half-naked, blood-loving,
But
crazy
if you didn't
people.
know that about her, and I can't think of her name off the top of my
Sherry
head.
Moon Zombie.
Yeah, you'd be like, she's hippie. And then it's like, oh, a hippie who will cut your throat.
Yeah, she likes to
and
murder
then
people.
fuck your corpse. Like, it's kind of worth it.
Well, there's always that. I mean, no matter throughout history, we've always had, even with books like The Interloper, there's always been that fear of the outsider.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to our caveman days. Like, basically, it was your clan versus my clan. If somebody from your clan moves into our territory, we have to kill you because we don't want your clan taking over and killing us. And I think
Right.
that is the heart of a lot of hatred and racism.
Right.
We're super clan
And that's why the
oriented.
monarchies were so inbred, because
Yeah.
they didn't want outsiders.
Absolutely. It's always.
And looking at the hippie movement outside of where, in the context of its time, it was right after this white picket fence, like Americana image that had been there for years. So now you suddenly have these people who are like free love,
Women don't have to be in the kitchen.
They don't have to be in the kitchen, homeless, doing whatever, hitchhiking.
Men can have feelings.
Yeah, it was a very different world than what had been there for
Agreed.
decades before that.
It was, but it also sort of started with LSD and
Yep.
MKUltra. I mean, part of the whole thing for the hippie movement getting started was the LSD parties at the gentleman who wrote One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest house. Like, that is what they consider the beginning of the hippie. There weren't hippies before that.
Right.
So literally, these accidental MKUltra projects kind of went haywire big term. Like, huge screen.
It's going to be interesting to see how this, because the way it's going is the end of this will be Charles Manson.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to see this like next part of the story prior to Charles Manson, it's going to be interesting because you say it's hard to put it in a linear perspective, but I feel like the narrative that you've presented so far, it makes sense to see it in the context of history and the context of this government, secret organization.
Well, I think we're also seeing the science progress. We go from
Right.
Jimmy Shaver, who does something at midnight. Maybe it was in his brain, maybe it wasn't. He goes and murders somebody, or even doesn't and just watches it, and they change his mind about whether or not he did. You see, can we alter someone's memory? And then you see, can we control somebody with Jack Ruby? Can we make him go kill somebody? You're damn right we can.
Who can he kill? The most powerful man in the United States.
Well, and Henry Murray, one of his, how it started in Harvard, and it was like science is objective, but results are subjective.
Absolutely.
Right.
So, I mean, when you think about that's their basis
Well, I
of
think
their theory.
we're going to be able to see the progression of the science. We're going to see, can we implant false memories with Jimmy Shaver? Yes. Can we create an assassin that may not be the most skilled or knowledgeable? It's not like Jason Bourne.
but just the common man.
Can we convince somebody
Yeah.
to walk up and shoot somebody
and that
point
was
blank?
the objective science. And then
Absolutely.
we look at it subjectively, and most people are like, oh, well, he did it. I mean,
Yeah, there's no doubt he did it.
Right. And well, then on the same
why
spectrum,
go
not,
any further? He
Yep.
did
well,
it.
and not even have it questioned by the public when it's publicly done.
Well, and I think the next step we're going to see with Manson is, can we create somebody who can then continue can he convince others to do
Yes.
what we want?
And convince them so well that even decades later,
Yeah, they still don't understand why they did it.
They don't understand, but they believed
she
at the
says, I
time
have
it made.
no idea. The
Yeah.
one lady who just did an interview recently was like, I don't know.
But you go from changing memory to controlling behavior to having your subject control others' behavior.
without any sort of involvement of
Kind of like a dog
MKUltra.
pack.
Yeah,
Yep.
You
absolutely.
convince that alpha dog
Yeah.
will the betas and omega swallows.
100%.
Ooh, it's so scary.
Yeah, it's fine.
I'm convinced we
I'm
should.
like, I'm not going to the doctor and getting any injections.
I'm convinced we should make an outline and just ship it to Netflix. Hey, make a series about this, and then we all die.
So Tom O'Neill kind of did that, but he spent 20 years researching
Yeah.
this stuff, man. He was a huge help for me with a lot of the missing pieces because I just didn't have the information.
Yeah.
Like, I've been interested in this forever, but he was able to get a lot of the missing pieces, and a lot of it was Jolly West. I mean, a ton of it. I'd never heard his name until Tom O'Neill.
Nor have
Yeah,
I,
and if
yeah.
he said he couldn't find a recording or
Yeah,
a transcript,
nothing.
you know there.
It didn't
he said
exist.
file cabinets
Yeah.
would literally be just empty.
Yeah,
They wouldn't even try to hide it that the files were missing.
Yeah.
Just empty spot.
it's just not there.
Is it weird? I imagine Jolly. You know who the actor Alfred Malone is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine that's just Jolly West. It looks like with the beard.
With the
That's-
beard.
With the beard. That's just
Yeah, when
it.
I started Googling pictures of him, I'm like, this dude.
He
is
doesn't look evil.
He doesn't look evil, but he's probably one of the most manipulative men of any of the 20th century.
Maybe ever.
Yes.
I think he's had more more to do with the manipulation of the human race than anyone else
Yeah.
in history.
Well, and to see it play out in such a manner, like I said before, if you only know the basic part, and this was me before we even started, if you only know the basic part of what history is, you don't associate JFK assassination with Charles Manson.
No.
You don't think there's an association there. But then when you start to see that there are pieces that are very similar with each other, you're like, this is like a timeline that hasn't stopped.
Absolutely.
So,
Well, I wonder about that with, and like I said, with Seth Rich and the DNC, the kid,
Yeah.
was shot twice in the back to be robbed, but nothing was taken.
right.
I wonder how much of that the federal judge that's working on the Epstein Deutsche Bank case where her son and husband got shot.
Well, and to see if how much could Epstein have also, just to see where in the government these things could have been.
So let's say, and this is all just what we have to assume is going on. If Jack Ruby was pliable, manipulated, if he was, because again, if these important people came to town, he provided them with prostitutes and drugs. Yeah, it's the same thing. He is Epstein on a lower level.
He's a honeypot. Yeah.
Just a different kind of honeypot.
There are lots of different ones.
Yep.
I mean, in war, they'll shoot somebody in the leg so that your soldiers have to go save them, so that they can kill the soldiers that are trying to go save them. It's the
like
same
the
principle.
madam from that state. Remember, like not too long ago, the madam who had the book.
Heather, I know you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
She's
all.
like, I'm just a honeypot. I was keeping this for somebody. I don't leak at all if you push me. And guess what? It went away.
Really quickly.
Yeah.
Sure did.
But it always does. Again, these are people that have no restrictions. There is nothing to rein them in.
Right.
Realistically, if they want to kick in the door here and swat us, we're all going to be shot, and that's kind of the end of the story.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I guess one of their Twitch viewers called in a SWAT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like, look how easy that would be to
yeah,
say.
2 seconds. And we're just done.
Yeah.
And there's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing our families can do about it. It's just game over.
Right.
Because they'd have tons of information about how we were.
Yeah. Terrorists
Anarchists,
or
yeah.
whatever.
Surprise, motherfuckers. I work for the government. My background check is clean.
I don't think it matters.
I
at
know.
all.
They'll come up with something.
I'm pretty sure Jimmy Shaver worked for the government,
It
too.
would be funny to see like the stuff they come. Oh, they were an anarchist. They were a terrorist. It's like she really just liked playing Valorant. She just yelled a lot.
But she shot people, so
Yeah.
you were training.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, they see like the 3
there's twists on
carry
anything.
permits that I have that I just haven't filled out because I was like, I don't really want to do this.
Well, that's because you didn't want a gun legally tied to you.
Right.
I mean, Becky, come on.
I mean,
This
there is a way.
this
I get it.
easy
It's
stuff.
funny just to see how you could take like innocuous things and turn it around. But
seriously, for any of you viewers or listeners, if you have any input or questions, go to the YouTube, go to anything and make a comment. I'd like to see everyone else's ideas on this because, again, I'm having to do a lot of this research myself, and it's tough coming up with the evidence.
yeah.
I try not to go off topic a whole lot. I go with, here are the facts as we know them. Here's how I believe they tie together. But if you have a different idea, let me know because I am willing to listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and this is that is kind of the beauty of this whole topic is that there's just so many missing pieces that anybody could come up with a logical, rationale for what's happening. So.
Well, there's a lot of crazy out there that you
It
just
is.
pretty much have to ignore. But I tend to, again, my brain works like if A, then B.
Right.
If Jack Ruby was, if he really dropped off somebody with a rifle at the grassy knoll, and if he was photographed under the book depository, he knew way more than he was letting on, and he actually lied about where he was during the assassination.
Right.
Why?
Right.
He lied about being a reporter to get into the press conference. Why?
And they let him anywhere he wanted to go.
Well, they always say the simplest explanation is the right answer.
Well, I think he was being led.
Yeah.
I don't think he was smart enough to see where he was being led to, but I think he was being led. Because, again, these are his buddies, and historically the mob is turned on friends.
Yeah.
They don't care. They will shoot you in the back.
Around.
Yeah.
When they say that it's not your enemies that kill you, it's your friends.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what they mean.
Well, this was...
I mean, we see that on a smaller level. It's your friends who will...
Turn on
Friends and family.
quickly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, can't wait to see where this goes, guys.
And next week, we'll be doing the MKUltra University
you. Yeah.
Girls Gone Wild edition. That girls.
Can I be Snoop Dogg?
Heck yeah.
Fuck
If you
yeah.
come walking in like Snoop Dogg, we'll be like, okay, Bobby.
I will give you money to cornrow your hair.
How much?
I'll give you $20.
How about 50?
No.
I'll double it.
Yeah.
Ooh. How long do I have to keep it in?
I don't care. As long as I see you in cornrows.
God, that's so awkward. I hate white people when they have cornrows.
I'm sure Tori would do it for you.
You look
100%.
like fucking assholes, and it gets me so mad.
He has just one big one that's just like
Oh,
right
just,
down the
just
middle.
a braid.
Yeah,
Okay.
just one braid.
I
don't
take that
care.
back. There's only one white person that's okay with it, and it's Post Malone, because he seems like a wholesome dude, and he's just fucking weird.
That's not true. Riff Raff.
Oh, fuck you, right.
Yeah.
Damn.
Tiptoeing in my Jordans, bro.
All right. Yeah,
Hey,
okay.
hey, Becky, where can they tiptoe and find us?
You will not find me with cornrows, I'll tell you that. But you can find me. You can find us on Facebook at
And
The Free
Spotify,
Rotation.
right?
Let me finish.
Okay,
At least let me get
Spotify.
through the first two before you start asking. You can find us on Facebook at The Free Rotation Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at The Free Rotation. We're also on Twitch at The Free Rotation. YouTube is The Free Rotation Podcast. You can find us at Weeby Geeks. Check us out.
We are banned from SoundCloud.
We are not banned from SoundCloud, but Angie lost the first episode we ever did, so we never use SoundCloud again.
Fair.
It's just gone.
Yeah. You can find us on Weeby Geeks. Check out all the other great podcasts at WeebyGeeksPC.com. And you can check out our backlog at TheFreeRotation.com.
And we have some YouTube series coming up.
Yay.
And we're going to go on a treasure hunt next weekend and film it.
Yeah. And Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google. You can find us everywhere. We are everywhere. We are like MKUltra.
Oh, shit. No, we're not.
No, we're not.
Nope.
Maybe we are.
Not me. They are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm out.
Oh, and make sure to check us out on Sundays. We have a regular D&D stream where we don't talk about MKUltra, but we play D&D, so check that out.
Maybe you fucking should talk about MKUltra.
Adventures in
Maybe.
ISO Cross. Check it out.
You know what? Maybe I'll make my org like a psychiatrist like Jolly West.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
Oh, I kind of want to run a
No,
gnome
no, 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 no,
illusionist
no,
who's
no,
Jolly
no,
West
no,
now.
no, no, no,
That's my next
no,
character.
no, ma'am. You gave me your
Bye.
backstory. I
Bye.
already know what it is.